Let's look at the funk.
I've always had this weird soft spot for those early 3D games. Developers had a whole new axis to play around with. There were so many new possibilities, and they had tons of wacky ideas around this time. You were jumping through paintings, shooting eldritch abominations, collecting purple crystals through time, becoming Tony Hawk, and even fishing. Incredible. The Dreamcast is where this stuff got really off the rails. We've got sky pirates, guys looking around for sailors, the Great Emerald's power, whatever the hell Seaman is, and even an MMO on a console before Wi-Fi was even a thing? What the hell was Sega on during this time? I've got no clue, but I don't think Jet Set Radio could have been conceived without this crazy experimental energy. Or Jet Grind Radio, apparently. Nah, this sounds way better. It was apparently due to some trademark with Jet Set in the US at the time, but they abandoned it immediately after, luckily. Most other games have you going after enemies or getting to the end of a stage or something, but Jet Set Radio has you tagging the whole place with graffiti. Bigger spots have you do this QuickTime event where you tilt the analog stick in various ways. It sounds stupid, but once you realize it's the same sequence every time, it quickly becomes muscle memory. And if you can't figure out where all these red arrows are, there's a map for each area. But I hate how it only shows the local map in the later stages instead of just showing the whole damn thing. There's already a full map in the tunnels in between sections, so why not just display the whole thing when you're supposed to run around the entire area? It's just needlessly confusing, but they make damn sure you're not confused on how to play because it teaches you how in the stupidest way possible. You have to follow a few characters and do exactly what they do. This is a precursor to these rival battles, where you do the exact same thing to unlock a new character. I like it there because it feels like a good test for your parkour skills, but when it's used as the lesson to a game you've potentially never played before in places you're unfamiliar with, it's dumb. Especially this part where we hitch a ride on the back of a car. The streets look too samey to a first-timer, and it's easy to get lost and have to restart the whole thing. You can skip the cutscene, sure, but when you have to observe where you're supposed to go, you kinda can't. Luckily the tutorial is only 10 minutes, but it's still annoying, like really annoying. And then you finish it and learn that you can't get hit by bullets while dashing, which is really nice to... Wait, bullets? Excuse me? If you thought GTA cops use excessive force, you haven't seen anything yet. At least in those games, they're going after a dude with dangerous firearms. Nah, these guys are shooting at graffiti artists. I mean, yeah, it's vandalism, and it's not exactly legal, but holy shit, people, it's just graffiti! You're sending in attack helicopters, tanks, and tear gas to fight off some rebellious teenagers? Good god, I'd hate to see how you combat drugs. War on drugs? Pfft, what about just war? The story in this game is just as stupid, because when you tell a bunch of rebellious skaters to stop spraying graffiti everywhere, they just want to do it more. There's 4 gangs all fighting over their territories in Tokyo too. The Noise Tanks, Poison Jam, the Love Shockers, and the GGs. With the whole thing being narrated by the pirate radio station.
Jet Set Radio!
This is DJ Professor K. I love this guy.
A letter from Mr. Osaki asks, how do I get rid of these nasty roaches? Easy, just burn your house down!
That's pretty much what you do in this game. You go from stage to stage, taking the territory away from other gangs, until you eventually fight off against them in these weird fights where you chase them down and spray their backs 10 times. I like the idea and concept, but these guys move a little too fast. You pretty much have to know the map and what's ahead in order to keep right behind them, and I mean right behind them. These fights last either 30 seconds or 8 to 10 minutes. There's not much in between. And I get that the whole point is to test how good you are at movement, but man, can this game get janky. The parkour in Jet Set Radio is iffy, but I will concede that I have never played a Tony Hawk game in my life, so odds are I'm just bad at video games. The closest I've played to a skating game is some Rocket Power game on PS2. Anyone remember that show? I barely do. But anyway, my point is, rail grinding is inconsistent in this game. A pretty good example is the first Love Shocker stage with this jump. You have to grind off this crane to the other side, but doing that is really awkward because the short nearby rail is the only way to get on it, and then you also have to successfully grind on the crane arm. And if you fail, you fall into a ravine and have to run all the way back to try again. It's just so... This is early game, so the rest of the stage is straightforward, but then there's just this for whatever reason. And god, I just hate this ramp. Cops are usually swarming in this area, and this is a way for them to stop following you. But because a cutscene plays when that happens, you often get disoriented trying to land on this small-ass platform, and you end up falling off a lot. And just to make things even more irritating, the slope is just steep enough to where you have to grind on the side, or else you lose your speed by the top and can't jump into the center platform. Just, God, do you people want to cause me emotional pain? But these kinds of things are mostly outliers. Yeah, the physics are kinda janky, but you can get used to it pretty easily, even if it isn't always obvious how to get to certain parts of the map. Or sometimes you just grind the opposite direction than you meant to, or you had just barely not enough momentum to make a jump, or... Okay, I'll stop now, because the game is usually pretty fun to play. Those kinds of annoyances just really stick out, but where the game makes up for it is easily in its presentation. Since they're spraying graffiti everywhere, making the game's graphical style look more like graffiti was a no-brainer. Easier said than done though, because in 1999 that cartoony 3D look wasn't very common. They ended up going with a technique called cel shading, make 3D art look more like 2D art. And in case that looks familiar, video games ended up really liking this style, like hilariously so. Just look at basically every anime game released in the last 10 years. The textures are pretty low quality, so you can still tell this is a Dreamcast game, but otherwise this game has aged better graphically than basically every game on the system. I mean, just look at Shenmue, which was released the same year. Impressive for the time, but you can tell at a glance it's a Dreamcast game. The art style was probably the best decision they made for Jet Set Radio. Even more than that is the soundtrack. Oh my god, this soundtrack is amazing. Like, it makes the game, I'm not kidding. Yeah, Jet Set Radio would still be fun without it, but it wouldn't have this unique energy that you can't help but love. There's like 30 tracks, so there's plenty of it, and every single one of them bangs. They did so good that even the in-game characters can't help but dance to this stuff. These musical gods even figure out how to make annoying, incoherent noises into something enjoyable. How do you pull that off? They have some licensed songs from seemingly random unknown artists too, including a song that's literally about Super Mario Bros. On the Dreamcast. Look, I know everyone mentions this fact, but it's too good not to bring up. Apparently they didn't know what the song was about when picking it? I get this is a Japanese game, but how did no one ever bring this up? Seriously, man, just try and play this game without jamming in this stuff. You can't. It's impossible. Although, I suppose I haven't actually talked about the general gameplay much, because that's the thing with the first Jet Set. The gameplay is just kinda there for me. The simple parkour and tagging is all there really is to this game. It does try to spice things up with rival fights that test you on those parkour skills, but that's mostly it. The race version of the rival fights don't even feel like races. You just go to the place marked in the map before your opponent does. They'll even stop if you get too far behind. Like, I thought this was supposed to be a race. Why are you not racing me? They may take you a few tries, but they don't really feel worth it, mainly because of how samey all the characters feel. They all have 3 stats: their power, or health, technique, which is the amount of moves needed for the quick time events, and graffiti, which is just the max number of graffiti cans you can have at one time. Any character with a low graffiti stat just feels like a huge handicap because it means you have to scour the stage for more spray cans. With how many cans it takes to tag murals, it gets tedious having to find more of these damn things. Because trust me, finding these things can get really damn annoying sometimes, especially in some of the optional endgame missions. Why even limit this? Why not just have everyone have the same max of 30? It doesn't increase the difficulty or anything, it just makes you run around looking for stuff more. After a while though, it feels like you're just going through the motions. Go to this stage, spray up everything, go to the next one, rinse and repeat. There isn't much variety or gameplay twist to keep things interesting. You can try to get the graffiti souls lying around though. They're completely optional, but almost always hidden in plain sight. The only way to reach them is by going out of your way to do tricks. You have to think outside of the box for a lot of these, I really like that. All they unlock is new graffiti designs to use, which is cool, but not worth going out of your way for. You can make your own custom graffiti, which is awesome, but I never got much use out of it. Why paint the town with my own dumb jokes when I can use any of these cool looking designs? Man, I am complaining a lot, and thinking about it, there isn't really much about the gameplay that I do like, which honestly just makes it more impressive that Jet Set Radio is still a game I really like. I'm struggling to find the words for what I like about it, because I really shouldn't like it now that I'm thinking about it, but I do anyway. Jet Set Radio feels more like one of those as an experience kind of games, because playing it is alright, but everything else feels totally unique. Listening to the awesome music, soaking in that cool art style, and watching this weird-ass story unfold. Because every time you finish taking down a gang, they drop a piece of some record. And it turns out some mob called the Rokaku are using it to summon a demon. You know how Karens in the 70s and 80s were convinced that rock and roll records said stuff like Hail Satan or whatever, but in reality it all sounded like random garbled noise? Yeah, this is like that. It didn't make any sense, and it still doesn't. How does that even work? It's just music. How is playing some random song going to summon a demon? So you gotta go around and tag graffiti everywhere like usual. There's even a part where two dudes in the US try to join the GGs, and you play through a flashback from 2 years ago. The Rokaku were even in the US looking for these things. Apparently this part was originally in the English version, hence the grind part of the US title. It's really weird. English speakers historically got screwed out of getting expansions for Japanese games. It's the opposite here. Japan didn't get this stuff until the HD remaster. The Grind City stuff is fine, honestly. It didn't really need to be here, but it's over so quick that it doesn't matter too much. The second map is a pain in the ass though. I can never figure out how to get from building to building. There's too many rails and navigation gets confusing. Navigation can get confusing in general at this point in the game. It's the map issue I mentioned before. But fully exploring all these areas at once makes you appreciate how interconnected all these places are. There's 3 areas, but it's hard to tell at first because you had no idea all these small areas make up one big one. It's really cool going to some place and being like, whoa, I had no idea this place was right here. Each area has its own time of day, too. It's an awesome touch when you notice it. Running around the full areas can definitely get draining, though, mainly because each mission has a completely pointless time limit. Yeah, you not only have to run around this place looking for walls to tag, but you also have to do this under a deadline. It's not something you'll notice most of the time, but when it matters, it really matters. Sorry guys, guess I just got lost for too long. It doesn't help with how damn annoying these Rokaku assholes are. Before, you were just dodging incompetent police officers and the occasional attack helicopter, but now it's assassins and straight-up terrorists. Like, these dudes are sending in snipers, bombs, pyros, and secret agents with friggin' jetpacks, just because a bunch of teenagers defiled their precious rhino statues. Yeah, they're a crazy mob/cult, but good god, do you people not have anything better to do with all the money you're obviously wasting? I couldn't even figure out how to take down some of these guys either. I'm probably just bad at video games, but good god, man, can you stop flying away from me? I found it better to just play as combo and tank damage for some of this stuff. This gets ridiculous. But eventually the Rokaku actually get their hands on the demon record, and their boss wants to make a deal with the demon to take over the world or something. So you fight him in this arena. Yeah, I tried to describe this. I couldn't. It's not much of a boss, though. You pretty much go to 4 corners of the map and tag the floor before the rhino hits you. But to be fair, I can't really think of any way to implement a boss in this game. This whole tagging mechanic doesn't make for decent combat, because spray paint somehow makes the giant flying rhino explode, creating a hole for you to spray this dude's forehead with paint. Yeah, he just gives up, I guess. And to the surprise of no one, the demon record was a hoax. The world was never in any danger. This dude was just crazy. I mean, come on, no sane person moves their hands like that while they talk. And quite frankly, no sane person would want to do all the optional missions in this game. They mostly just have you running around the maps without any enemies to deal with, so you can get any graffiti souls you miss. These missions have the same issues that I mentioned before, but at least there's nothing getting in the way of your objective. Beyond that, there's a score attack version of this where you can just see how many points you get in 10 minutes, and a race for each map where you just do those rival races like before. And that's all that the optional stuff really is. It's cool that there's still something to do afterwards. It's cool that I can go back to Grind City with other characters, but it's all stuff you've done before. It doesn't feel new. It's just stuff to keep you occupied if you want to keep playing it for some reason. Because honestly, Jet Set Radio feels like an experiment more than a fully realized video game. Yeah, sure, the general gameplay and movement is good, but it still needs a lot of refinement. And going from stage to stage makes sense, but you end up retreading a lot of old ground for little reason, and going between sub-areas gets needlessly confusing. Not to mention the completely pointless time limits. I was all over the place with this review, and that's really what this game feels like. A great game bogged down by a bad structure. I didn't mind the stages at first, but I really felt it by the end. Going through the same errors all the time is boring. In spite of that, the game's so short that it's not really too big of a deal. You could do worse with this structure, but when it's only about 4 hours long, it's not enough to completely ruin it for me. Because that charm really makes up for it, and because of that, Jet Set Radio is still a game I find myself coming back to every few years. The game feels like a product of its time, but in an awesome way. A game like this could have only been made in the Dreamcast era of Sega. There was very few games with that same kind of infectious energy and style. With more refinement, Jet Set Radio feels like it could be something truly special. But unfortunately, it only got one more chance to do that, aside from a GBA game that's absurdly expensive. So next time, all we have left for this series is to look to the future of 20 years ago. Until then, take care everyone, and I'll see you all next mission.